how many people come up to me and tell me that they just don't use any salt at all. Is that a good idea? When is too much? How much salt is too much and how much salt is too little? That's what we're going to talk about today on the live stream, Dishin with the Dietitian. For those of you who are new to my channel, let me say welcome. I'm thrilled that you're joining me. If this is something that interests you, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It will allow me to continue to do this and to provide you with nutrition information. Also, if you're enjoying this, definitely please hit the thumbs up button. That will give me a sign that I am on the right track. So what puts me in a position to be able to discuss this with you? For those of you who are new, let me introduce myself. My name is Debbie. I've been a registered dietitian for over 30 years. Currently, I'm a clinical dietitian at Mass General Hospital's Cardiovascular Disease Prevention Center. I also consult with many companies. I've appeared in national publications such as Harper's Bazaar and Family Circle magazine. I've contributed to a chapter in a book put out by the cardiologists at Mass General called Facing Heart Disease. I have also appeared in television. It gives me my greatest joy and pleasure to provide accurate nutrition information so that you can reach your dietary goals. Together, we will shop, we will cook, and I will navigate the way. So let's start by looking at salt. We need salt in our diet. We need it for regulation of fluid balance. We need it for acid-base balance in our body. We also need it for muscle contraction. Many foods have added salt to act as a preservative, to take away the bitterness from food, and to give it some extra flavor as well as stability. So when is too much? Let's start by saying, how much do you need? You need salt, and salt will come in many, many forms. So whether it's sodium bicarbonate or anything with the word sodium will be salt. Table salt is actually a mixture of sodium and chloride. Sodium chloride is table salt. Now, when we talk about sodium, we can interchange sodium and salt, and many people do. And I think that's perfectly fine. But how much salt do you need? For those of you who do not have hypertension, a level teaspoon is 2,300 milligrams, and that's all you need for the day. Don't go much above that. Actually, don't go above that at all. For those of you who have hypertension, you stay at 1,500 milligrams, not the 2,300. 1,500 milligrams, just to give you a visual, I don't know about any of you, but I wasn't raised in the metric system, and I'm a visual learner. I have to see it in order to get it. When I say to you, stay at 1,500 milligrams, for me, that didn't mean a thing. I don't know about if that's the same for you. But for you, 1,500 milligrams is a little under 3/4 of a teaspoon, and that's where you need to stay. So it's very easy to exceed the salt. But if you don't have any salt, your blood pressure can go too low. So you need to have some, just don't exceed that 1,500. How are you going to know whether a food is very high in salt? 140 milligrams by definition per serving is low sodium. But your need for salt is a U-shaped curve. So too little is no good and too much is no good. If you see a product, and remember your mantra, it's read it before you eat it. Always check the label. If you see a label and there's 200 milligrams in a serving, that's still fine. But if you read a label and there's 700 milligrams in a serving, then you have left the field. You are way too high because you're already having almost half your daily allotment, particularly if you have hypertension. Even if a food doesn't have a label, you will know that it's high in sodium or salt. We can use them interchangeably by the acronym SKIP with a C instead of a K. It's SCIP. The S stands for smoked. So foods that are smoked are generally high in salt. Salmon is fabulous. Smoked salmon is not. Almonds, amazing, but not smoked almonds. And turkey, but not smoked turkey. It would be C for cured. Pickles are high in salt, except for bread and butter pickles, which are fine. It would be black olives are fine, but green olives are soaked in a brine, so green olives are high in salt. Don't confuse black olives with Kalamata olives. They look identical, but Kalamata olives are high in salt. It would be Chinese food. That has to be steamed without the sauce. Think about what it goes into the preparation of a dish that you'd order in a Chinese restaurant. Soy sauce, loaded with salt. Oyster sauce, to the moon. Hoisin sauce, there you go. Fish sauce. All of these are loaded with sodium. Each order of Chinese food in a restaurant will be at least a day's worth of salt. For the eye, it's instant. So instant rice mixes. It's oftentimes found in the flavor packet of a rice mix. So a boil and bag brown rice is great, but a pilaf, not so good. Instant mashed potato, instant pasta mixes. The P stands for processed. TV dinners, boil and bag meals, lean cuisines, canned soups, canned vegetables are all high in sodium. Let's take a look at some of the foods that you might be including. Let's take a look at the sodium content. And if they're high, let me show you how you might make a change. Okay, here we go. I always love, sometimes when you go low fat for cheese, you will go high sodium for cheese. So for those of you who like cottage cheese, you're going to see that Hood, Stop and Shop, and Friendship, that they have taken care of you on both fronts. They have a 1%. You can see how I totally could use my daughter. But they have a 1%, no salt added cottage cheese. How am I doing? Can you guys see this? Am I doing okay? You can see it says 1%, no salt added. That's just what you're looking for. That would be for you. Always read the label. As we talked about, that one of the places that we're going to find salt is in canned goods, processed foods. Let's take a look at some of the foods that you might be including. For those of you who might be having Progresso soup, I've talked to some of my classes, and we all agree. Let me know if you agree with me. If you open a can, you're going to eat the can because you're not going to want to throw it away. So this is a 2-serving can, and if we ate this soup, the soup would give us 1,960 milligrams of salt just from the soup alone. That's more than a day's worth if I had hypertension, just about a day's worth, close to it if I do not. This is not a good choice. It should not come home with you to the market. Campbell's has chunky soup. This is their chicken noodle. If I were to eat this can, I'm going to have 1,780 milligrams of sodium. That's incredible. That's more than a day's worth if I have hypertension, and almost like 2/3 of a day's worth if I do not. And I've only had soup. I haven't had a cracker with it. I haven't had anything else with it. That is pretty stunning. Now, I love to show this example because I find it fascinating. This is the Pacific carton of tomato soup. This is the Trader Joe's carton of tomato soup. Let me know if you can see that they look identical. The colors are very similar. They're the same. And how am I doing? I'm trying to figure out. There we go. They're very similar. The cartons are the same. The colors are the same. And you want to make sure that that you aren't getting the Pacific, thinking that you're getting the Trader Joe's. When I look at the Pacific, you're going to see that when you look at the sodium, it's 750 milligrams of sodium in a cup. When I look at the Trader Joe's, I'm going to notice that it says low sodium on the front. It can't say low sodium unless it is, and low sodium means that this gives me 140 milligrams in a serving. That's just what I want. So go slow. You don't want to be in a rush. You want to make sure you get what you want so that you have the 140 and not the other. So make sure it says low sodium. Read the labels. They're pretty stunning. When you're buying condiments, really important to be mindful and to go slow when you read these labels. Now, I find this stunning. This is, I have 2 bottles of sriracha. Okay? Can you see them? This sriracha chili sauce will give me, for just a tablespoon, will give me 440 milligrams. Remember I told you 200 is where I'd stay? 440. And so I might say, oh my, but I love sriracha. If instead of buying that one, I bought this one, this sriracha will give me 75. Far cry from 440. So buy this one and you're going to be much better off. Taking 2 extra seconds in the market to read the label, read it before you eat it, will let you walk away with a much better choice, because there is a linear relationship to salt. As salt intake goes up, so doesn't blood pressure. Salt will act like a sponge. It's going to hold your fluid, so your heart has to work that much harder. An increased intake in salt is linked to an increased risk of stroke and early mortality as an independent risk factor, which means it doesn't matter how old you are. This includes kids, everybody. It doesn't matter if you exercise or not. Could care less what your weight is. To give you an idea of how potent the salt is, it's thought that if as a country we eat so much processed food, that if we cut our intake of salt in half, we'd save about 150,000 lives, 150,000 lives every year. That's pretty impressive. And your taste for salt regulates. The more you have it, the more you're going to want it. But the less you have it, the less you want it. How is fresh mozzarella? You've got to check the label. Some are higher than others. So check the label for that, and also check it for the saturated fat, because different brands will vary. Remember, you're staying, for saturated fat, you're staying at 2 grams if you have heart disease. If you've had no heart event and your cholesterol's fine, you can go to 3. But read the label. It's a great question. Some fresh cheeses aren't as high in sodium, but they are in saturated fat. And you don't want to do one at the expense of the other. So fresh mozzarella, you'll have to read the label. But watch these things. And certain things that you might think are high, and certain things that you may not think are high are not, it might be the reverse. So is there a difference between kosher salt, sea salt, Himalayan salt, gray salt? I've got them all. They taste differently. But in terms of the salt, salt is salt. And I don't care if it's kosher salt, sea salt, garlic salt, onion salt. If it has the word salt in it, it's salt, and you've got to be mindful. Now, there is a difference in the size of the crystal, but really it'll come out in the wash. If you were to use a sea salt, it's a smaller crystal. If you use kosher salt, you're going to have to use about 1/8 of a teaspoon more to get the same saltiness and the same amount of salt as sea salt. So that's not a huge difference. I think they come out in the wash. So salt is salt. Watch the salt. And if it has the word salt in it, that's salt. Now, here's a last soup I just want to show you, and that is the Healthy Choice soup. This little can, they're telling you, is 2 servings. And if you eat the can, you're eating 960 milligrams of sodium. So that's 960. You're staying at 1,500. It's 2/3, a little bit more of salt in just a day if you have hypertension, and close to half if you do not. And you've just had soup. You didn't have anything else. So watch things, because there's something called the Salty 6. And the top of that list of the Salty 6, the 6 foods where you're going to find the most salt, are breads and rolls, pizza, sandwiches, cold cuts, cured meats. And talking about cold cuts and cured meats, let me ask you this. It's stunning to me. How much salt do you think is in an Italian sub? Now, thank you, I haven't eaten it. However, a friend made a tomato, basil, and mozzarella sandwich. She's very healthy, but I forgot about the saturated fat. So that's why I'm so glad you're here on the live stream, because this is just what this is for, a reminder and a refresher sometimes. So it's good to be mindful. And if you were to, many people, I can't tell you, come up to me and say to me, I love me in an Italian sub. I know they're bad, but I love them. How bad do you think they are? And what do you think they're high in? Well, one of the things they're high in is salt. If you're at home, tell me if you're guessing in your head. And if you have a number, definitely type it in. I'll be curious to see how much salt there is in an Italian sub. It absolutely might shock you. Let me, as you're trying to write in your numbers as to how much salt you're guessing is in an Italian sub, and I'll be curious to see what you think. I want you to know that when you go to your deli, I hear a 2,000. If I hear any more, and I'm so glad, James, you're here. If you were to go to the deli counter, make sure you get the low sodium version of whatever cold cut that you're getting. So Boar's Head, for example, has a low sodium turkey breast, only 55 milligrams in a serving. When I take any other guesses for the Italian sub, be pretty interesting. I think you guys might find it stunning as to how much salt there is in an Italian sub. If anybody's going to type it in, I'll give you a second, and then we'll take a look at some of the foods. And if you tell me what you put on your turkey sandwich, some people say they're afraid to put mustard. I actually love, this is the Trader Joe's aioli garlic mustard. Those of you who know me know I love garlic. I also love mustard. This is 55 milligrams for a serving. It's really low in sodium, but it is packed full of flavor. This is at Trader Joe's. So thank you, James, for typing in. It's actually, you're going to flip when I tell you, I think, that it's not the 2,000 that you guessed, although that was a good guess. Your Italian sub will provide you with 4,291 milligrams of sodium in your sub. So just get the defibrillator out, because you are going to need it. Is that incredible? People don't realize what it is that they're eating. And I think if you take a look, that knowledge is power. And that really helps you to make a much more informed decision, because it will increase your risk for stroke and heart disease. The part of the next six, the salty six: breads, pizza, sandwiches, cold cuts, soups. And that's not a surprise, as we just saw. Burritos and tacos will finish off the list. And think about it. When you go out to eat in a Mexican restaurant, you get beans. They're canned beans. Canned is processed. It's going to be loaded with salt. The cheese, James, yikes. I know. The cheese will be high in salt. The bread will be high in salt. So take this sodium in some of these foods when we dine out. It's incredible. But before we go into the dining out, let me show you some things that might surprise you in one way or another. This is, many people use this to make a dip. This is the French onion soup mix from Knorr's. It's instant, it's processed, and you're going to be surprised that for every 2 tablespoons of this, you will get 680 milligrams of sodium. That's incredible, because nobody has just a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons. Most people have much, much more. So you can easily get to 1,000 if you have a couple of, or maybe your whole day's worth of salt just by this. This isn't a good choice. If you're going to have an onion soup mix, make it yourself with caramelized onions that you've done in oil. Add some Fage Greek yogurt, season it with garlic and garlic powder, a little bit of salt, and you're going to be fine. Look at this for condiments. They're incredible, some of them. This is anchovy paste. Every tablespoon, and I don't think you're going to use much more than that, is 1,140 milligrams of sodium. Is that unbelievable? 1,140 milligrams. So if you're staying at 1,500, 1,140, you don't even know what else is in there. That's incredible. Oh, look at me. I dynamite. I have to tell you the funniest thing. Ready? Funniest thing is that a long time ago, I don't know if my friend Jeffrey is watching on the live stream, but a long time ago, my friend Jeffrey, who happens to be an orthodontist, asked me to go on his cable television show to talk about the sugar in food. And I did. And I held up a box of cereal. I was so prepared and also so nervous that I was holding it upside down. Didn't know. Showing that anchovy paste. These were bringing me right back. Breads. Make sure you read the label on bread. This is the Dave's bread. This is the thin slice Dave's bread. It has 21 grams of 21 grain. It gives me 12 grams in a serving. A serving is only a slice. I always have 2 slices because it's 60 calories a slice. And if I have 2 slices, I get a serving, a little over a serving of whole grain. This will it's 105 milligrams in a slice, and so that is low sodium. So not all breads are high in sodium. You've got to read the label and find one that you like. Soy sauce. This won't surprise you, I don't think, as to the salt in soy sauce. How much sodium? Take another guess at this one. How much sodium do you think you get in a tablespoon of soy sauce? Any of you sushi eaters, those making your own stir fries using soy sauce, let me know. Give me a guess as to how much sodium you think you're going to get in just a tablespoon of soy sauce. I'm going to wait for your answers because you might be surprised. Take another shot at it, James. I'll be curious to see what you think of this one. And because it might surprise you. Not as high as the Italian sub, not anywhere near. But I'm also going to show you a good substitute. So I'll be waiting to hear your this is coconut amino acids. Many of you may not have seen this, but this is a great substitute for soy sauce. Gives you a little sweet, but also that sodium kind of feel. And it's very, very low in sodium. It will give, it's actually 300 milligrams of sodium. So it's not that low, but you could go a teaspoon. A teaspoon will cut you in a third. So this would work. I also love, let me know if any of you are having Thai ginger marinade. Thai ginger marinade is terrific. The sodium in this, I don't know if you've taken your guess, but the sodium in a tablespoon is 920. Thai ginger marinade will be 1 something. So it's a much better choice. Food can have flavor, but you don't have to have it high in salt. This is Osso sauce. Many people use it on wings or in chicken. You won't believe the sodium content in this. For every 2 tablespoons, you ready? 1,270 milligrams of sodium. Is that shocking or what? That totally shocked me. Let me know if that shocked you. 1,270 milligrams. That's incredible. That's almost a day's worth. You taught me to stay away from soy teriyaki, and that's why. The soy sauce high in salt, teriyaki high in both salt and sugar. That's why, James. And you listened, and go you. That's awesome. I'm loving having you guys here. Different salad dress, and one other mustard dill sauce. This is at Whole Foods. Really low in sodium. This will give you 75 milligrams of sodium in a serving, which is a tablespoon. And this is a great, I use this on salmon a lot. It's delicious. Let me know if any of you have tried this. You're going to find the Whole Foods sauces and marinades in the produce section of their market. Thai ginger marinade you'll find in the produce section. This mustard dill you'll find in the produce section. And they are wonderful. Watch things like pickled pepper. So for this pepper is 310 milligrams in a serving. The issue with it is, do you really need it? It's 300. It's going to eat up. If you have hypertension, you're a heart patient, it's going to eat up a third of your allotment for sodium. So for me, I just as soon hold it and wait for something else. But the serving size is 1/4 cup. I can't imagine going much less than that to cut the sodium. So for me, this is a pass. I'd rather have bread and butter pickles. I actually like the Grillo bread and butter pickles, but there are many out there. For salad dressings, they also can be surprisingly high. This is the Legal Seafoods herb vinaigrette, 160 milligrams of sodium in a serving size, which is 2 tablespoons. For me, that's perfect. I use this not only on a salad, but I will use this on fish when I'm grilling it, and it is delicious. I love halibut. I'll use this on halibut, and it's wonderful. I buy this at Stop and Shop. They sell this. That's pretty good. Go Stop and Shop. Stonewall Kitchen, phenomenal company out of Maine. I love them. This is their buffalo aioli, 180 milligrams of sodium. See how many ways there is to flavor food? Love so that you can use these and they're wonderful. You can use lemon, you can use the right hot sauce, you can use mustard, you can use horseradish. This is Engel Hoffs creamy horseradish. It's actually low in saturated fat and only 20 milligrams of sodium in a teaspoon. So, and it's strong, so you really only need a little bit. This is scrumptious. It's really great. I gave this to my brother-in-law, and he was most delighted. So, food doesn't have to be high in salt to have flavor. You can use many. Let me know if any of you use Paul Prudhomme's magic seasoning. There is Mrs. Dash, but I also love Paul Prudhomme. So Paul Prudhomme, chef from New Orleans, passed away a little while ago, almost a year ago, actually. But enough jambalaya gave him multiple medical problems and landed him in a wheelchair. As a result of that experience, he developed a line of seasoning blends called Magic Seasonings, and they are wonderful. I love the flavor combinations, lemon and cracked pepper, toasted garlic and onion. You'll find them right where your herbs and spices are. So right where your garlic salt, garlic powder, where all of that is, you will find Magic Seasonings. My guess is you might have passed it a million times and just never noticed it. So take a look next time you're in the market. Magic Seasonings is available in most markets. I would have thought all nuts would be off limits due to salt, but I was psyched when I found out only salted cashews. Right. Isn't that so? Low salt cashews, only 45 milligrams. That's the beauty of reading a food label, James, and also knowing how to read the food label, looking for that 140 to 200 range. That sometimes things that you thought you could never have, you actually can, and it's thrilling. And then certain things totally surprise you in the other way. Tuna fish is one of those examples. So this is the bumblebee tuna fish. And many people say, oh, I must have to get the low sodium tuna fish, and it's really hard to find. But bumblebee tuna fish is 140 milligrams of sodium. That's not bad. So that is a fine choice. You don't have to buy the low sodium. You certainly can if you want to. But there are foods out there that are just wonderful that you can stay with that won't derail you. Where I would tell you that you get most of your salt is not only from processed foods, but also from when you dine out. Restaurants love to salt your food because having a lot of salt makes you thirsty. And the more you eat, the more you'll drink. The more you drink, the more you eat. Up will go your tab. That's their goal, not yours. So be mindful. Remember that acronym SKIP, smoked, cured, instant processed. So if you're reading a menu and it describes the food as being smoked or cured, you can tell that it's processed. Then you're going to know it's not a good choice for you at all. You might be surprised. Think about when you're in a restaurant, if you think that they're making this food fresh for you, or perhaps they started it with a little help through perhaps a base or an instant mix, because then you're going to know it's high in sodium. For example, if you order soup in a restaurant, do you think that they're really making this whole thing homemade, fresh for you? No, they're going to start it with a base. A soup base is the equivalent of soup bouillon, and that's going to be loaded with sodium. So soup is not a good choice to order out in a restaurant. Have your soup at home, either I think that Trader Joe's soup is the best tasting low sodium soup on the market. I think it is a great choice. Or make your own soup at home with water, and you'll be good to go. So that low sodium soup, I'm showing it to you in tomato, but it comes in other flavors as well. Let's look at where you might find some salt. And if you have any questions or comments, definitely feel free to write in. But let's look at some of the salt in the restaurant dishes that you might be ordering, and you might be surprised as to which foods are high in salt. Because sometimes you just didn't realize, or you just didn't appreciate the fact. One would be if you see a shake you're going to know. Do you think that shakes are being made fresh for you, or do you think perhaps they're instant mixes that are used to help make a shake? If you guessed instant mixes to save on time, you are totally correct. So, Baskin Robbins, for example, their large chocolate Oreo shake, it's a shake, they're doing it instant. This is a fast food place. 1,700 milligrams of sodium. That's more than a day's worth if you have hypertension and you had ice cream and you never thought ice cream would be high in sodium. That blows my mind. Does it blow yours? I think it's incredible. When you take a look at, let's take a look. If you were to take a look at you were to go to On the Border and you got their steak fajitas with a flour tortilla with Mexican rice, black beans, guacamole, sour cream, pico de gallo, 4,970 milligrams of sodium. Because all of these things are canned or processed. Even if you got the shrimp, actually, if you got the shrimp fajita, the same accoutrement, but this time it's shrimp instead of steak. 5,350 milligrams of salt. I mean, that's just, is that not, that's just, that's not good at all. Now, when I was a kid, I loved McDonald's milkshakes. I don't know about you. Oh, here's James. How are you, James? I'm loving this. Keeping with the salty snack thing. Skinny Pop Popcorn has a few flavors, less than 100. Right, that's when you're, so Skinny Pop Popcorn, fabulous. Totally love it. You can also pop your own, but it's a great surprise because you would think this might be high in salt, but it isn't. Take a look at potato chips. They're also not high in salt, although I think Lay's has a 50% less sodium line, and I actually think that's better. But the popcorn, the issue with these bags is that if you're watching your weight, if you open a big bag, you're probably going to eat the bag and not have any appreciation for how much you ate. So I would suggest you getting the 100-calorie snack bags so that one bag, and then you'll see that you're done and you know exactly what you ate. But isn't that a nice surprise to have Skinny Pop popcorn as low in sodium? My favorite is the original for the Skinny Pop. My daughter loves the cheddar. Let me know what you like. But I actually pop my own in a bag. But it's great when you find these things. That's awesome. Thank you for that one, because that's a big help to everybody when you share that with us. When I was a kid, I used to go to McDonald's and I loved their milkshakes. Now I've got to go back and see what I was eating as a kid and frankly say, thank God I'm alive. Let me know if any of you can't believe what you were eating before and how you might have made a change. McDonald's, I can tell you because I've consulted for McDonald's, 3/4 of their business is done in the drive-through. So for an item to make it onto their menu, the criteria for inclusion onto their menu is they have to be able to take the order, prep the meal, bag it, serve it in under a minute. Otherwise, they're going to have a line down the street, and that's just not going to work. So McDonald's triple chocolate milkshake is an instant mix. Otherwise, they'd cause traffic problems. Instant means smoked cured instant, high in salt. So their milkshake is 510 milligrams of sodium. I told you 140 to 200. At 510, that's way too high. Instead, now in fairness to me, when I was a kid, they did, not to date myself, but they didn't have this on the menu back in the day. But better would be if I got their reduced fat vanilla ice cream cone, I would go down to 60 instead of 510. So you can go to these places, get delicious food, but you really have to watch the salt because they could be totally high. 4,604 milligrams for the sodium. All right, so you're getting the idea that some things you just have to ask yourself, where is the salt coming from and how can I make a change? If you order no salt in a restaurant, you're telling their server, please just don't add salt. Well, if you're ordering corned beef or pastrami, it's really not going to help you. So think about what's in the food itself and then talk to them about how to prepare it and how much salt to use or not use. Where I'm telling you 1,500 milligrams for a day and 2,300 for those who don't have, for those who have hypertension, 2,300 for those who don't have hypertension. The average American is consuming about 3,500. So we're way off the mark. We're having way too much salt. And as salt intake goes up, so doesn't blood pressure. It is a linear relationship. So you do need some salt. If your blood pressure is low, you might need a little bit more. But look at the foods that you're eating. Try to eat less. Try always read your label before you eat something. This is a great surprise. This is the Rayo's pizza sauce. You've seen me make pizza before, and this is actually very low in sodium at 150 milligrams of a serving. So it's another great treat of foods that you can include that are low in sodium but packed full of flavor. It doesn't mean low flavor. It just means low sodium. Also, let me know, have any of you gone out to eat or been at somebody else's house perhaps, and you ate something that had a lot of salt in it, and you said, oh, it just became a really sharp, offensive taste. It makes that food almost inedible. If this has happened to you, let me know, because that's a great sign. It means you're in your zone. And you can pick up that salt. You become very sensitive to that taste, and that's exactly what you want to have happen. I love to cook, but many of these chefs on the Food Network, well, I think they're outrageously talented. Your taste for salt regulates, so the more you're going to have it, the more you're going to want it, and their salt is just off the charts. So don't fall prey to that. Make adjustments by putting garlic salt, garlic powder, and enjoying the flavor of the food itself. Any questions or comments? Otherwise, I am going to tell you to have delicious eats. Let your food be good. Food can taste good and be good for you. It is not an oxymoron. Let me know if this has helped by giving me the thumbs up. I do see some thumbs up here, and that's like giving me over the moon joy. I was telling someone the other day that even celery now tastes salty to me. That's amazing. That really shows you how sensitive to the salt that you are. And of all the vegetables, celery actually is one of the highest, even though it's low in sodium at about approximately 50 milligrams of sodium in a stalk of celery, which is low. But for vegetables, it's high. I wouldn't worry about the salt in celery, but that's incredible. You can taste it, can't you? I know that's really good. Yum, yum. Isn't that good? So I'm so glad you're here. That is awesome. This is how one of the best parts of the live stream is not only for me to be able to provide you with information, but also for me to stay connected with many of you who've moved on. And I did say no to calamari olives, Susan, because they're really high in salt. And many people, when I say black olives, they confuse the black olives with the calamari because they look identical, but calamari are high. So I did say no to calamari. Yep. But yes to black olives. Check also cheeses. Check your feta cheese. It's incredibly high. Look at some things that read the labels, because I think it's while James is showing you things that you welcome, Susan, and I'm so happy you're here. But while James is showing you some things that he saw on nuts he found that were good, and the skinny pot. So sometimes it surprises you in a great way, and sometimes it shocks you, like the Osso sauce. That totally shocked me. I don't know why, but I thought it might be high. I just didn't realize how high it was. That threw me. That was incredible. The other thing that shocked me were the two srirachas that I would have thought were interchangeable and completely the same, and were drastically different. One with 440 milligrams and the other was 75. That's incredible. So it does highlight the need to go slow at the beginning so that you read these labels. You start to find the brands that you like that will keep you in good health. And then once you've done that, then you can go quicker through the market. Isn't that so nice? That's so nice of you, James, to wish Charlene's go girls. Charlene, I know, Charlene, we are just so thrilled for you. And we know that feels so good. So really, go you. That's awesome. Awesome. I have loved all of you being here. It really is just a great opportunity for me to stay in touch. You know, some people who come that I get to meet with, then they reach their goals and they move on. And I'm thrilled for you all. But I really get to know you as people, and I love you, and I love to be connected with you. So this is such a great way for me to stay in touch with all of you, and I'm just so grateful that you do stay in touch. It's wonderful. So yeah, if this, oh, I even got some more likes. So I love that. So thank you so much for joining me. I'll give you another few seconds to see if there are any other comments. Otherwise, I'm going to tell you to don't you really watch the foods that are smoked, cured, instant, and processed. I love your guts too. I was waiting. I missed it. So thank you. Now the live stream is complete because I got to love your guts from Charlene, which is awesome. And that goes back to when we talked about the microbiome. So that's that. And best, what a great sense of humor. You do have to be able to laugh. So take a look at the foods in your fridge and in your pantry so that you can start to clean out and see, how can I make a change? What are the foods I'm having that are great, good for me to include? What are the foods that I'm having that are maybe sabotaging my goals and I didn't realize till I started to read the labels? Um, you won't sacrifice flavor in any way, but you do become sensitive to the salt, and that's actually a good thing. So enjoy your food, have happy eats, healthy eats, and if there's something that you, as always, if this interests you, please consider subscribing to this channel if you haven't done so already. Please share this, with your friends and family so that they also can subscribe so I can continue to do this. And if there are things that you would like me to cover on the live stream, let me know because I am very happy to do so. This is a result of a suggestion by somebody that I met with, and I'm happy to continue to do live streams on things that and present information that you're interested in, that you'd like to know a little bit more about. So I'm hoping this has been helpful for you. Before you bring that salt shaker to the table, read the label and the foods that are already on your plate. It'll make a huge difference in your overall health. So here's to all of you. Have a great night, everybody. And thank you so much for joining me on the live stream. I will look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. If there's something you want me to cover, let me know. But until then, have a great night. And thank you to all of you, to James, Charlene, to Boo, to Susan, to all of you, and whoever else is out there and may watch this at another time. Thank you so much. Have a great night. And here's to all of you. So remember, herbs and spices, fabulous. No salt in those. All right, everybody, I'm going to sign off. Have a great night. Love your guts too.